All right, AP Environmental Science. This is topic 7.5. It's on indoor air pollution. We've been talking for the last week or so about air pollution in general, but we've been kind of referencing, outdoor air pollution. Things like photochemical smog, for example, is a type of outdoor air pollution. So we're going to focus in this lesson about the indoor types of air pollution. And what's kind of interesting about indoor air pollution is it actually causes more deaths every single year compared to outdoor. So for all that stuff we talked about outdoor air pollution, how bad it was, more people die every year from exposure to indoor pollutants as compared to outdoor pollutants. Now, indoor air pollution kind of varies depending on where you live in the world. In developing countries, for example, the type of air pollution, indoor air pollution that they're exposed to is usually a little bit different from the indoor air pollution that the developed world is exposed to. So we'll kind of talk about both of those, reference both of those. The World Health Organization, the WHO, estimates that over half of the deaths worldwide due to indoor air pollution are children under the age of 5. So, a lot of these people that die are young children due to breathing in poor quality air. All right, so let's first talk about the developing countries. We've kind of mentioned this a little bit before about just some of the activities that take place inside the home in developing countries. So if you look at this picture here, for example, this woman is, she has like a little fire pit, either right outside of her house or possibly inside of the house. But in that she's burning wood or manure or maybe charcoal or something, basically used to heat or to cook food. A lot of these homes in developing countries have very poor ventilation, so that means a lot of these um, compounds that are produced, from burning all this biomass just stay in the house, and people end up breathing them in. Things like carbon monoxide gas, SO2, NOx, particulate matter. These are all things that eventually lead to 1.5 million deaths every single year. Mainly due to lung related diseases like cancer, emphysema, those types of things. So if you're burning a bunch of biomass in your house, it's probably not good for your health. But in developing countries, this is the only access they have to a fuel source so that they can cook their food. Not everybody in the developing world has natural gas and electricity, so this is what they're going to have to use. 90% of all air pollution deaths are found in developing countries. So remember that statistic. Now, as far as the developed world goes, like the United States, for example, there's a few factors that kind of come into play that help increase the amount of air pollutants inside the home. One of the things that we're seeing is that in the developed world, indoor air pollution exposure is increasing partially because people are just spending more time indoors. I mean, look at these two kids, right? They're inside playing video games, right? For probably 5, 6 hours at a time. You know, Go outside, kids. I mean, get out of your house. I mean, the more time you spend inside the house, the more time you're going to be exposed to indoor air pollutants if there are any. And there usually are some inside of everybody's home. We'll talk about some of those things in a minute. Our homes are much better insulated than what they ever used to be. So the better insulation you have in your home, the more that air is going to stay inside your house for a longer period of time. And again, there's more materials in the home now more than ever that contain chemicals that could end up being indoor air pollutants, things like petroleum-based compounds, plastics. We talk about VOCs compounds again. These are all things that we don't want those odors to be inside the house. And here's just some examples, and you can read this on your own, of some different indoor air pollutants. It could be something as simple as tobacco smoke, if anybody in your house is a smoker. It could be old paint. It could be asbestos. We'll talk about that in a little while. Radon gas, particulates from fireplaces or wood burning stoves, and again a whole bunch of chemicals as well that can linger inside the house. So these are all things that chances are we have at least one of those things in our home. I want to talk about a couple of specific types of indoor air pollutants. One of them is called asbestos. Asbestos is a material that used to be used as an insulating material in older homes and buildings. It's not used anymore, and mainly that's because of what it's made of. It's made of these thin fibers of silicates. Silicates is basically glass. And this material does make for a very good insulator of the home. They would insulate the inside of the walls and the ceilings, with asbestos. But what they found out, this was back like in the 1970s, they found out that this stuff, if it becomes airborne, you can breathe it in and you can get extremely sick from it. So all the asbestos that was used, in some of these older homes and buildings had to be removed. The thing is, to remove it, you have to be extremely careful. You don't want to just rip it out of there. You have to take it out very carefully, because if you rip into it and those particles become airborne, then you can get them in your lungs. That's called asbestosis. And that can be very dangerous because it can lead to a type of lung cancer called mesothelioma. Maybe you've heard of that before. They have commercials for it. There's lawyers that specialize in mesothelioma cases. But asbestos, again, it's one of these things where modern day homes are not insulated with asbestos anymore. But older homes, maybe homes built back in the 1950s and 1960s, those homes, if some of those places may still have asbestos in them, especially if they're abandoned buildings and things like that. They may still have those fibers there, so they have to be very, very careful with that type of stuff. Carbon monoxide. This is another indoor air pollutant. This usually is released um, due to a malfunctioning furnace in your home. It's always a good idea to have your furnaces inspected, maybe on a yearly basis, or at the latest maybe every other year, because if those furnaces are malfunctioning, then they may not be burning the natural gas the way that they should be, and that carbon monoxide can actually be released inside the home. Carbon monoxide um, is a byproduct of incomplete combustion of natural gas. So if that builds up inside the home, again, it's a colorless, odorless gas. We've talked about that before. And if you breathe it in, you can get very sick. If it's nighttime and you're sleeping and you breathe that in, you may not wake up. There are people who die in their sleep from breathing in carbon monoxide fumes. They do sell carbon monoxide detectors. I highly suggest that everybody's home has at least one of those installed, just in case there is a carbon monoxide leak or some type of carbon monoxide buildup inside your house. Radon is another indoor air pollutant. Radon gas typically is caused by radioactive decay of uranium that is below the surface of the earth. There's uranium in the earth that's deep within the earth's crust, but it's a naturally radioactive element. And when it does break down, it produces radon 222. Radon is a gas that will seep up through the surface of the earth. And if there's any cracks in the surface, then it can enter your home. It can even get into groundwater as well and seep into the house through a well. And if you breathe it in, it can definitely cause problems. In fact, it says here 21,000 people die every year from radon-induced lung cancer. It is the second leading cause of lung cancer after smoking. So, I mean, radon gas is a real deal. So, again, there are radon gas kits that you can purchase and have those installed in your home. This is a map showing us just some of the common radon gas deposits around the country. And you will notice Right up here where we live, right up in Northwest Indiana, there is a very high amount of radon gas underneath the surface. So, if you have an older home, especially, and there's a possible crack in the foundation of your home, underneath the house, then some of that radon gas could leak in. So it's a really good idea to have that inspected, have those radon detectors in your home to make sure that does not cause an issue. VOCs compounds, we've talked about these. These are things also that are found in the house, things like paints and glues, and we talked about like air fresheners, things like that. These things, especially paints and things that have a strong odor to them. Those things should always be stored, in a cabinet, inside of your garage, or even if possible in a shed that's far away from your home. That way, those fumes won't build up inside the house. Formaldehyde, that's what produces the new carpet smell. So if you get new carpeting installed in your house, that could cause difficulties breathing, could cause asthma, could even cause cancer. Luckily, that smell does dissipate after a while, so that's kind of a good thing. And then finally, today we have something called sick building syndrome. Sick building syndrome is a situation where people who are working, let's say, for example, in an office building, people get sick due to the conditions of the building itself. Sometimes there's just inadequate ventilation in the building. Sometimes there's chemical contaminants from an indoor or maybe even an outdoor source. Sometimes there's biological contaminants, things like mold, for example. We see sick building syndrome, usually in older buildings that may be susceptible to mold. Again, may have poor ventilation, but it could be caused by a lot of things. I mean, people literally can go to work and get sick. You hear about this all the time. And it's kind of hard in some cases to figure out what's causing the problem. So, in some cases, a home inspector or a building inspector would have to come in and find the source of what's getting people sick. But sick building syndrome is an illness caused by the building itself. There's something in that building that's causing that individual to get ill. All right, guys, that is it for indoor air pollution. Make sure that you ask me any questions if you need to. Send me some emails if you have any direct questions, and I will see you soon. Take care. Bye bye.